He's basically just told us, hey, it's like when you're getting fired from a job, and they're like, we need you to work this whole day, and then come in and talk to us at the end of the
We'll
day.
have a
And it's
meeting
like,
in the evening.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
no, no,
Am
I
I
don't
getting
think I
kicked off
will.
the show?
Yeah, I'm just like, So, anyways, hello and welcome to another episode of Drinks and Discussions, the RPG podcast, where a bunch of nobodies get around the table, pretend to be somebodies, and talk about games. Today what we're going to be talking about is actually pitched by Mr. Pickles. So, before we get into it, I guess I'm going to pitch it off to Mr. Pickles to kind of bring us in. But real quick, just so you guys know, co-host here, Mr. Pickles, DM and storyteller for the TTRPG called Strange Town Golden Ridge. Also is a voice actor behind portrayals such as Morgan from Dirty Journey and Grunkle from King's Crossing. We also have Adise here. Adise is the storyteller behind The Dirty Journey, which is the show we do here on the podcast. He also is the voice portrayal behind Adarag from King's Crossing. Myself, I'm Wrath. I kind of host all these things, but I am the storyteller behind King's Crossing, and I'm the voice portrayal behind Solomon from Dirty Journey, and Kingsman from Strange Town Golden Ridge. So there you go. That's how we are and who we are and how we all know each other. Without further ado, off to Pickles for the topic of today.
Well, I wanted to talk to you guys about a concept that I feel like I've been struggling with my entire time as a storyteller, and now lately playing in the two games mentioned in the nice little bio you gave me there, Wrath. Thank you. Puzzles. Puzzles in adventures. I was really thinking about it, and like every single adventure can be broken down into its combat, or it's something social RP, or it's a puzzle. Doesn't matter if it's a riddle or trying to investigate a detective scenario or figure out what a killer clown punk rock band is trying to do with their music to the people in the town. No matter what it is, it's just trying to solve something that isn't social or combat based. And so I feel like that's a significant part of any given average game that I've been failing at as a player. So I wanted to talk about it today to kind of brainstorm what is the best way to go about a puzzle. Because I thought about it, you don't want it to be too easy, where they're just like, yeah, the answer to the riddle is water, let's move on. And you're like, no, you got to go to the other rooms to get the treasure and also the clues to solve the... Okay, whatever. You don't want it to be too hard, where they sit there and they're like, what's the riddle answer? What could it be? I hate you, Pickles. I hate you. Never come and do these again. You don't want that. And so I just figured, how do you get to that ideal challenge level where they don't initially get it, but they spend some time on it, and it's a satisfying, oh, we use the amulet to go back in time. or something like that, where once the players get it themselves.
We used the water to go back in time, not the amulet. The amulet was connected. Oh my god, never mind.
But my amulet lets me go back in time 3 times per day. And that's where...
I forgot. Never mind.
We got the clues, though. We got the clues.
But the water was
and here's like... I don't know. One of the puzzles I failed recently was... The storyteller tells me, hellhounds are very resistant to fire. You're going to have to find another way to deal with them. Okay, I'll use the amulet to go back in time once. I do it a second time. I only have 1 charge left, so I'm going to use fire.
I thought that was weird, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's one of those moments where it's like, I don't know why I didn't get that. And that's why, as a player, I want to figure out how to approach puzzles correctly. And also as a storyteller, to change my own writing style to be more understandable.
Okay. So there you go. Topic of the day is puzzles approached from a DM's perspective and a player's perspective, and how to plan them, how to prep them, how to execute them, how to figure them out and solve them. It's a loaded one, and I'll be honest, I was thinking about it kind of over time, and I wasn't really able to prepare a whole lot because it's not something I've really solved either. Showcasing my own game, King's Crossing. It also, one thing Pickles was talking about was, given some time, they get the clues and figure out how much time. Is it something, hey, they encountered this, you can't figure it out right now, you'll have to come back to it later. But how do your players know that? They think, hey, we've encountered these skid marks where a car spun out and like crashed or something, there's an explosion, but there's no explosion here, so we're sitting there going, okay, how do we figure this out? And then it's basically just, yeah, you can't really figure it out right now, come back later. And it's like, oh, okay. And it's like, I don't know, is that the right way to do it? Because I've also done in King's Crossing, the way I've done it is I've littered clues over time into where, you know, hey, Bjorn said something when Adarag and Nimwart met him, and like there was, you know, this and this event and this and little things over time, but by the time it's like, hey, you guys should have pieced all these things together, they're like, yeah, I didn't connect any of those dots. I didn't know those were connected. I didn't listen to what that person said at that time, so I never got that clue, or, you know, and then it's like, it's so much easier to miss something or to not connect dots that by the time it's like, players are like, what? And you're like, you don't get it? And I'm like, no. And it's like, where did I go wrong? And so it's also, how much time do you kind of put in between the clues and stuff? Because I did it differently and it still didn't work than how Pickles did it, and it didn't work. And then with the Deeses, the Dirty Journey, the main puzzle I can think of is the water. You go back in time, you're able to climb. You go back in the future, you're able to climb. You go back in time, you're able to climb, and you get to the top of the tower. That was back to back to back, immediate, with no time in between, and we still didn't get it. And so it's like,
it's simple on paper. That's the thing. Is like thinking that through. It's like, God, what a couple of dum-dums we were. Just happy-go-lucky dum-dums just wandering through this puzzle being like, how do we do the thing we just did?
As easy as it is to say, my character wouldn't think of that. Because Solomon wouldn't be like, magic, time travel. Of course. But also as a player, you kind of got to work with the DM and figure out their puzzles to keep the story going. You know, you can't just be like, hard. Oh, my character doesn't care. You know, you gotta work with them. So it's like, nope, that was just me as a player failing to figure out.
Same. I wanted to be smarter.
I think that brings up a good point, though, that you do have to kind of take it, speaking from the DM's perspective at this point, you have to kind of take it as you have to know at least a baseline of like where your players are at as far as their wish to puzzle solve. Because I know that that's something that Nimwart and Adarag, or well, the players of Nimwart and Adarag, Adis and Toughnuts, we love having those critical thinking skills in our games, and Wrath has done a great job of integrating that into our side of the story, of incorporating a lot of thinking puzzles and a lot of critical thinking going on. Whereas somebody like a Torvekian and a Grunkle doesn't make as much sense for them to be so focused on puzzles and these critical thinking aspects. So they're able to go out and do the combat side that Nimwart and Adarag struggle with. So having that understanding of your players' tendencies needs to come to the forefront when you're starting to plan one of these puzzle sections. I could have maybe I could have been more clear in my clues when it came to the water. I tried to be a little cryptic about the rhyme and the rhythm of the text on the font, and I tried to be a little cryptic in that, but it turned out to be a detriment because it didn't actually give them the clue that they needed.
I wouldn't even say that. I would say the rhyme worked. We figured it out, and I felt impressive that I was like, okay, yeah, we can figure that out, you know, to past to present. What we didn't figure out is just to keep doing it, to just use it. Like I don't know how you would even help that. Like we just were like, hey, you gave us what we needed. We're just not going to use it. Yeah. So that's a tough one.
If I can interrupt here, I think the answer, or the question to ask there is, should players explicitly know the goal going into a puzzle, or can you do a puzzle where the goal is, this is a thing, what do you do with it?
Yeah, it's also that's tough. There's so many different.
We didn't know there was a goal necessarily. I'm gonna
take the, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like puzzles I've actually used in King's Crossing. One I can think of is it's not really a puzzle. It's what?
The moving trees.
Moving trees, yeah. Yeah, I guess I've had a couple. I was thinking the Atlas scenario, kind of piecing together what happened there. But that's not really a puzzle, I guess. That's more just figuring out the lore and what happened.
A lore puzzle.
Yeah, I guess. And that's one that I don't think Pickle's group still understands. They're still trying to figure out who the arsonist was. And I was like, that was solved like 10 episodes ago, but all right. Yeah, they were talking about, they're like, I think I might know who the arsonist is. And I was like, what? We already figured that out like so long ago. So yeah, they're still trying to solve puzzles.
We'll get them one of these days.
yeah, if they just showed up, yeah, they would know. But yeah, we'll take moving trees. So moving trees puzzle was a really simple puzzle. You know, the trail keeps moving. What do you do? And basically, the answer was just go off the trail, which you did, and you solved it. If you keep following the trail, it's gonna keep turning and moving and changing because they were moving and changing. You know, but without basically without that willow bark, you weren't able to see them for what they were. So you just saw trees, and you were like, why is this not working? Once you had the willow bark, then you turned and you saw, oh, it's a bunch of tree folk moving around. And so that kind of helped explain it. But really simple puzzle. Hey, trail keeps moving. You're not getting any closer to where you want to go. What do? You went off trail. You know, really simple puzzle. You figured it out. That one I would say worked.
Yeah, I'd say you would. Yeah, it had me at the point of where after the first 2 times of like following that path, and I kind of started to get a little frustrated, like, what am I doing that's wrong here? What am I supposed to do? And then it clicked, and then we were able to complete it, and that was, I think, just the right amount of frustration that a player should have.
Yeah, I don't even know if it clicked. It was more, okay, I just go off trail, and then it worked, and you're like, oh, got it.
Is that not the correct level of challenging I was talking about?
I would say that one worked. I would say that puzzle worked. We'll give another one. Serpent Leaf Essence.
Yeah, that was satisfying. I like that one.
Trying to figure out Serpent Leaf Essence. The name is the Serpent Leaf Essence. It's the essence of it. And I explained that this plant is growing out. He was able to figure it out. And he's like, okay, these leaves are shaped like serpent heads. He's like, okay, you know, yeah, there were snakes guarding them. Okay, this is Serpent Leaf. What is the Serpent Leaf Essence? And so he's like, I am taking the leaves. And I was like, no. He's like, I'm looking around. I
thought I was going to like bring him. I thought what was going to happen is I'd bring him to Granny Evelyn. She'd mash him up like into a thing and extract it and maybe like boil it and have like an alchemy apparatus that like distills it down to the essence. That's what I thought. So I was like, I'll just grab as much as possible.
So, but the key thing is find, it should be located near words written on the stone. And Pickles is like, well, I see it all over. I don't know what I'm looking for. And I was like, that was a huge clue. Was you got to find the words on the stone. It's written. Like, there's a whole picture about it. And it was like, and then once he found it, we were doing the recap, and he completely left out the words. And I was like, that was a huge part of it. You're supposed to get the words because the words tell you about the mother, and the mother is a whole thing that you're supposed to investigate. And they're like, I don't know anything about it. And then not only that, so ignored the words, which was one of the clues, and then I'm like, these are the plants, and they have a dewy residue on them. And he's like, I don't know what to do with these plants. And I was like, serpent leaf essence, the essence on the serpent leaf. There's a dewy residue on the serpent leaf. I don't know what else to say.
Grunkle's like nostril just flares for no reason as he's staring down at these leaves for 15 minutes.
I literally had to break it down like that. I was like, the essence of the serpent leaf, there's a dewy residue on the serpent leaf. And then finally, I take it all.
I was trying what I thought made the most sense, and Grunkle's not an alchemist, and so I guess I'm looking at this and thinking there are things that become potentially detrimental to a puzzle. You guys have mentioned them, starting with cryptic. As D said, that you didn't think that helped. You thought it was detrimental to us learning how to do that puzzle. and Wrath, you said that that actually still worked for you. And so it made me think that maybe certain attributes to a puzzle make it harder for it to be grasped by players. For example, another one was secondhand knowledge, is what I'm calling it. Hearing about something going on from people who saw something, rather than being at the direct scene of the crime when you saw like the murder happening. You were talking about the Atlas problem, and why we're not getting it is I think we're like third hand or second hand squared, whatever you want to call it. So it's harder for us to sort of grasp what's actually true, and that's kind of why I went up to Elder Elaine's house to investigate that. It was like I want to confirm what I've heard and see if I can't help them out a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I'd add my third negative modifier, unclear goal. If you're not sure what to do, that can potentially be a detriment. But Adis said that eventually, or well, I think you said of Adis, eventually you figured out just to step off the path.
Yep.
So I guess I'm making a list of what makes a puzzle harder or more difficult to grasp as we go along here.
One example. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'll go.
No, I thought you were done.
I was going to jump on to the next topic or next idea. But if you want
on
to go.
that point, I would almost say whenever you come up with a puzzle, like I can create a puzzle with one answer, and to me, very clear. This is the answer to that puzzle. But that's one perspective. Not everyone thinks the same way I do. So I think it's better as a DM when you're creating. This is from the DM's perspective. When you're creating puzzles, have multiple options that could solve it, because then your players might go the smart, route where they're like, oh, I'm going to come up with this whole scheme of systems, and you're like, okay, that could work. Or it could be like, I hit things. So you're like, okay, figure out a way that you can make it work that way. To where, if they start leaning, brains or brawn, you kind of have an option either way, and you can guide them towards that option that they're leaning towards, rather than like there's only the brain option. Well, they're trying to lean brawn, and you have to pull them all the way off of that to brains. That's a bigger pull rather than, okay, there is a brawn option, you just got to go about it the right way, so let's work on that. Mm-hmm. A good example, and this is one that I'm gonna give away as a spoiler, so get mad at me if you want. This is King's Crossing spoiler. You guys recently literally dug out a puzzle somewhere. Do you guys know where?
Elder R Lane.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You guys found a door that's built really well. You can't get in. Adareg's group has found a solution. Grunkle's group has found a solution. You both have two very, very, very different solutions. Grunkle went over and tried to hit it with a sword, and I said, I'm going to let you roll for it because you might be able to break it with your new sword. However, Grunkle's sword didn't break it. However, then Grunkle went and figured out how to power his sword.
Well, and then the attack immediately happened.
Right, so obviously you haven't been able to do anything with it yet, but now your sword is powered. Your sword could have broken it, maybe. Now it's powered. Maybe you have an option of, I hit things. Their group doesn't really hit things. However, you guys recently got a picture of...
Oh, what did we get a picture of? Nimwor's been taking all those.
She handed Nimwer a picture of a doorknob.
Oh.
I wonder if that could be used for something.
Oh, no shit. That's actually a useful item?
Oh. Someone else recently used a picture as a useful item. Grunkle used a picture.
Yeah, Grunkle did that. Yeah, he saw a man on a throne.
That's how you went and got your sword powered up.
Yeah, no, this girl needs to give out more quests.
There's been pictures for like 15 episodes. You guys just ignored them.
I didn't think a child
point over her head.
I didn't think a child in the swamp was a worthy quest giver, but puzzles. I was the one who was like, can you give Grunkle a quest where he saves a cat from a tree? That's the kind of ogre he is.
You saved Alexios from a swamp.
I wanted to save
Mud Pit.
A little key cat for a child. But I guess Alexios does kind of count. He is an elf.
I mean, the closest you've got is Dibs, which you actually threatened him and gave him away instead, so... Hooray, Grunkle. You're a hero. Anyways, this isn't a King's Crossing under the table. But yeah, so that's a puzzle where multiple options that kind of lean towards players' strong points.
Preferences.
Yeah. Kind of going in with what he said and with what you said. So, anyways, on to your next point, Pickles. You were.
I'm just adding to the list. Limited or specific answer is one of the detriments that make a puzzle harder. From what you said.
Yeah.
Okay, so how much of a puzzle should you hide behind or gatekeep behind successful skill checks?
Hmm.
The puzzle is necessary to move forward. Let's assume it first. As in, if you don't succeed at this puzzle, it is a door, and there's no way to go except forward because caved in behind you, you're in a dungeon. You have to succeed at this door.
Well, I've got an easy answer, but I'm curious what Adis has to say. But to my answer, if you have multiple options of how to get in, maybe one of those options is skill checks. You do your skill checks, you get it. Okay, you got in. That was lucky. Got to skip doing whatever this was. Or if that skill checks, okay, you woofed them. Whiffed them? You suck.
Whiffed them.
All three.
Whiffed it.
You got to figure out another way. Now, as a DM, I know that there are other ways to get in. So, hey, trying to brute force it and skill check your way in didn't work. We'll figure out something else. You know, go find the clues, go follow the trails, and, you know, figure out another option.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say coming at it from that perspective, it's yeah, it would take a bit more work on the DM side, but if you're putting in that work to create these breadcrumbs and create these multiple pathways, then some of them should be areas where it's more of a like if you there's like one path that's like if you get lucky you get this one. The other one is if you're smart you get this one, and then the other one, then the most like runaround way is the one that, all right, I feel bad for you.
Yeah. I know that one. We just did that one, didn't we, Wrath? We refused a good witch's help.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Although that was kind of on me for being a little cryptic in the fact that I didn't fully explain that this person had two personalities. I kind of left it as breadcrumbs throughout multiple episodes of something that never really was highlighted until Dan the mechanic had to kind of state it right out.
Yeah, I guess I still saw it as two different people. I didn't realize
Yeah.
they were the same person until
Yeah.
I think Pickles connected those dots and was like, oh, and I was like, oh, got it.
After Adis explained it to me.
Yeah, after she had already left.
Explicitly. But that's one of those things. Cryptic is on there as it makes it harder. And harder isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just finding that sweet spot of how intelligent Mr. Pickles isn't. So, yeah, I guess hiding success behind skill checks is
I would say allowed, but definitely not your only option because, I mean, we've all seen dice can go terribly, you know?
Yeah.
And you can have it, I mean, we've seen it in King's Crossing. Crit fails are a real thing.
I have a 95% chance to succeed.
Oh my god,
and I got a 100.
That was so funny. He had so like there was a clip and I was like, "There's no way you failed this," and he rolled and crit failed, and I was like, "Never mind."
The dice can be very unkind sometimes, and that's why I brought it up. I guess is just that I often feel that there should be an automatic way to move forward if there isn't otherwise, but succeeding at a skill check should give you the proper way forward. Like trying to lockpick a door, if you fail and you're just stuck there and there's no way else in, and your character's too small to reach the window or something, then it's like, well, what do you do? But
okay, you fail, you made a noise, someone checks the door, you know, a guard comes out, and now the door's open, but now you have to fight a guard.
Or you have to use your stealth because clearly you're a rogue.
Well, they just failed their stealth with the skill check rolls, so that's how the
well, that lockpick I was assuming was different from stealth. Like lockpicking, they made a noise. Now you hear guards coming.
Maybe I feel like in the most recent systems that we've been playing, they're the same skill. But...
Well, yeah, with Savage Worlds and whatnot.
Zweihander and Savage Worlds, I think they're all the kind of same
They blend those skills as like a profession, which I kind of like in a sense. But that brings me to my next question. So with skills, like if you're hiding success behind a proper skill check, um, how often do you feel that you should be like using skills your characters aren't really like proficient in, like putting in I guess if you had a really esoteric like occult based adventure and you put in a bunch of law enforcement officer characters that are like, we didn't put points in occult, you might be like, is that a detriment, I guess, or is that something that can generally be okay?
Well. As someone who plays in Strange Town Golden Ridge, yes.
Not having or non-dominant skill checks.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, that's a huge thing of, if you know your campaign as a DM, if you know your campaign is, hey, we're doing a seafaring campaign where a lot of like puzzles and stuff are going to be, you know, on the ocean, on a ship, da 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 da. Have your characters make characters, have your players make characters that have skills relatable to the adventure at large. If you're like, okay, I'm playing a wizard who's never seen the ocean and who excels at being a necromancer on a boat with no dead people, and it's just like, I don't know that that's going to work very well. Like, can we at least tailor it to where you won't be a complete detriment to your party? Like,
undead mice.
Just a Pied Piper of undead mice. I mean, maybe
they don't eat our food. They eat the brains of our enemies.
Yeah, you could tailor that, but I mean, yeah, I mean, if you have a campaign where it's like, hey, we're going to be on a caravan, we're going to be rolling, and I'm playing a guy who can't walk. And it's like, how are you? Okay, how is that going to work on we're traveling campaign?
Oh, well, he's just not going to leave the caravan.
Yeah, he'll just never leave. He sits inside the whole time. Or, oh, I'll just make Pickles carry my character everywhere they go. It's like, what? No. That's ain't gonna work. So
that would be an interesting idea for a campaign, though. Like have somebody who's just in a backpack as like a mobile turret.
Yeah, that I was gonna say.
Dibs on not it.
Torvekik and Grunkle have flirted with that idea before.
That's true. Grunkle has become kind of a carrying mount for his companions.
I love it. Okay, so here's one we've touched on a little bit. So how many clues should you give for a given puzzle? How complicated should you make it? And when I say clues, I don't mean the same clue multiple times. I mean different clues. Like you might approach something where it's just simply a riddle on a door, and you have to figure out the riddle. That's just one clue. And adding other things might be just anything else in the environment that would help you figure out the clue, like figure out the puzzle. How much is too much, and how little is too little, do you think?
Yeah, so that's one thing I did kind of take away from that first puzzle experience was having some sort of like backup planned for other ways to find out about this clue. Like if your first clue is a bit cryptic, then maybe the next one is going to be more of a piece of paper, like a Pictionary sort of thing, which elaborates a little bit more on it, but doesn't quite give you the full picture. And then maybe a third or fourth clue down the road is very much like, all right, do this. But at the same time, and those are things that you could maybe incorporate into, like, if you really see your players struggling, try to give them those little breadcrumbs every now and then. But this is like in a short period of time, like we were talking about, as opposed to the long game puzzles that we talked about earlier. But maybe having some of those planned as like a back pocket, like, all right, if they're not getting it off this first one, maybe I can pull out this second one, and that might clarify it, maybe bracket them in a little bit closer to the answer. Kind of walk them in.
I would agree with most of that. I take it from a different approach, but I think for that approach, that is the right way. And I've done that before. The difference that I've done with King's Crossing, and it's not better or worse in my opinion, is that, well, let me just say this. I think write as many clues as you as the DM feel comfortable that tell your story. And then you give those to the players. Now, the one I'm going to take is serpent leaf essence. So I gave Pickles those clues. The thing is that he got the writing, serpent leaf essence. There was writing on the wall, which he completely disregarded multiple times, and I kept having to remind him, hey, that was a clue that you shouldn't be forgetting. But it's like, how would I ever... We've talked about it before, like, if they forget a clue, how do you bring it back up? I can't bring that writing back up multiple places. It was there. Like, that's where you get it. And so, okay, he got the writing. Then it's like, okay, he doesn't know what it says. He's got to go find someone who knows what it says. So he can write it out for them and show them, hey, this is what I got in my head. What does this mean? And it took him forever to remember that. And I was like, okay, please go do this. And finally he was able to go do it. Now, granted, the idea was that he would go to someone old who, it could have been one of many of the older people in the town who knew what that was, and then he would need to, okay, it says the mother. What does that mean? Well, it's related to an old prophecy. Okay, now you got to go hunt down and track down this prophecy so you can better understand it. However, I knew Grunkle, I've had to pull teeth to get Grunkle just this far. He's not going to go fucking do it. So I was just like, you know what? Whoever he takes this to, this old person, just knows the full prophecy, and they're just going to give it to him. Because it was like, so I would say give as many clues that are comfortable telling your story, but like Adi said, sometimes you just kind of gotta, okay, you got it. Like, technically this should be like 3 more steps, but you got it all in one, because I don't think you'll ever finish this quest. Hashtag right Silent Blood Rose. Yeah. And so it's either, okay, you have another quest that just remains unfinished, or I just kind of give it to you. So yeah, my initial is put in as many as you as the DM feel comfortable that tell your story. After that, gauge it to the players, make moves on the fly to kind of make sure it happens in a immersive way that doesn't, like, all of a sudden Grunkle just thinks and he's like, oh, I know the entire story of the mother because I didn't go ask anyone, and all of a sudden Grunkle just knows it because I had to give it to him. Like, that ain't gonna work.
I mean, I got my head chopped off, so it's like
a bit off.
Oh yeah, sorry, bit off with teeth. Yeah, chopped with teeth, if you
will. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents on it. But I feel like either of those approaches work. You either, write and have backups, or you write and kind of cram as necessary.
Yeah, I think that is something that I would have to caveat my explanation with is, yeah, it does have to make sense in your story. You can't just, like you say, just kind of like, oh, this character who's not all that smart suddenly has this epiphany.
Right.
So.
Yeah, because I feel like as a player, if Kingsman all of a sudden was just like, say Detective Verde, who's a police officer, doesn't get his puzzles, and all of a sudden Kingsman's just like, oh, I know about cop stuff, and I get it. Like, if Pickles just gave me that, I'd be like, what? No, he doesn't. Why? Oh, because Fred wasn't getting it, so I have to get it? Like, it would, as a player, I'd be like, that wasn't rewarding,
You did trade out that edge anyways, so.
Yeah, I got rid of it, yeah.
Because otherwise I could have been like, you have a connection that might do something.
True, yeah, but I don't know. I'm still mad about Kingsman. Anyway.
I don't know why Kingsman's so angry.
I don't like his character. I really don't. Not anything that anyone did. I don't feel like I made a good character. But this isn't the show for that.
Yeah, we don't do under the table for that show.
We tried.
Yeah, well, yeah. But that's okay. I've got another one for you guys. My camera's turned around because my Andrea is home.
I'm noticing, is Pickles hosting this? He hasn't answered any of his own questions.
I'm biased.
I was like, we're answering everything.
And I opened with, I am a complete failure at this. Isn't what I want to say, but it's how I kind of feel. It's like I failed at so many puzzles, writing wise and player wise.
Technically, it's like I failed at puzzles too.
I need to do better. I need to write better my own way and also be a better player. But the only way I can think of is just asking questions that I wrote down. And one of the things that I often feel I abuse too much is number of wrong clues given. Because when you're interviewing people and trying to find out what happened in a murder scene, there's going to be all sorts of people who have something to say, but not all of them will have anything helpful, and sometimes will have contradictory information. But in a puzzle that you want your players to solve and feel successful about solving, how many wrong clues can you give before it just dilutes the water entirely?
Like Liliana being a sea serpent.
I didn't give that.
Extrapolation
I
on
didn't
your
give.
part,
Yeah,
though.
I did not give that as a clue. To my understanding, I didn't give that as a clue. That was really funny though. I was just sitting here thinking, I don't think I've given any wrong clues. Like I don't think that's something that I implement in my games. And then Adis is like this, and I'm like, hang on. First off,
Okay,
I didn't
hang
do
on.
that.
That was us connecting some red string on a board that did not make any sense, but it made sense to us.
Yeah,
at
you
the
guys are
moment.
like, Liliana is probably a mermaid. And I'm like, what?
I love the passion behind the rant. I heard about it. I need to watch it myself, but the passion coming from the under the table was...
It was funny. I was sitting here like, you guys got to explain this one to me because even I was a little lost. No, I don't think I really implement wrong clues at all.
Like red herrings or anything, like oh well, maybe it's the blah blah instead of the gang from 183rd Street.
Yeah,
The
I
blah
think,
blah being a Wendigo.
huh. Yeah, I think the addition of red herrings is only something I would ever feel comfortable implementing after I've kind of prefaced it with having a couple of standard investigations go through with my players first before you start to introduce these red herrings, so to speak. So that way they may be able to pick up on them. Otherwise, if you throw them in out of the blue like that, it's something that it would take somebody who's really skilled with knowing how to walk through these puzzles.
I would
to
also,
really
I would add to that. That's perfect. I would add to that. Do it slowly, adding them in, and make it obvious at first so they can pick up on them. Like you were saying. So, okay, we've solved 3 cases of. I'm just taking us as a detective game. We've solved 3 cases. Sure. We're doing really good. Players are on top of the world, da 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 da. And now they get to the crime scene. They got to go, interview, and they're just going through the motions. But then someone's like, yeah, it was probably Hitler has returned, and you're like, what? You're like, wait, what? And you
Dang it, Todd! It's Monday.
You're like, I think the elephants are probably attacking, and you're just like, what? And you just like start realizing that okay, they're starting to throw in some wild stuff that okay, that I don't need to note that down. Like, but even still, like as a player, if this was my game, you'd be like, elephants attacking? Okay, that's probably connected to something else. I'm going to write that down because in my game, I don't really do false things. So if I had a character say something like that, we'll just throw out there dibs being like, so my dad's name is Atlas. And everyone is like, shut the fuck up, Dibs.
Shut the fuck up, dude.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I don't throw in that was connected to something in the future that never got connected, so then I had to add it in elsewhere for other people to find. Yeah. So I would say make it obvious, and even then I would make it obvious and then make it known that they've solved the case, and they're like, well, I still have this thing about elephants attacking the town, and you're like, no, you solved the case. And that's when they can realize, oh, okay, that was not useful information. Now I understand that I need to be looking for not useful information. Like, I need to sort my stuff.
Which I think all of this kind of comes down to having those under the table sort of moments where you can clarify things that they find throughout their
I don't understand what you're talking about. Can you explain what you mean?
Yeah, show up to under the table.
Well,
I'm not talking to you two. I'm talking to anyone who might be watching this who doesn't show up to under the table.
Oh, okay.
So having those sorts
and
of
then
moments.
Just is like, maybe we can still try and find the arsonist. That was solved like 2 months ago.
That was me, and I show up to under the table.
It wasn't you. It was Fred and
I
Shifty
do believe
talking about it.
My other question was going to be like, how useful is it to have like under the table after game talks about your puzzles, especially if players aren't getting them or if they struggled with things, or even if it was a good challenging thing, just figuring out what worked.
Yeah, I know for one instance specifically, the Atlas.
Atlas was huge for
Thing.
that.
I mean, we were getting like these little breadcrumbs along the way, and we just weren't piecing it together. So it was good to spend an extra. We went probably like 30 minutes or 45 minutes of us just
Mm-hmm.
kind of hashing through, like, all right, what's the first thing that you found out about this? Okay, then what's this?
Yeah.
Okay, and
I
he
didn't
started
give it to
helping
you, but I just kind of walked you through it and connected
help
the
me string it
dots.
along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you know about this situation that happened? Then what happened? Then you learn this. Then this. So that means, and they're like,
Yeah, this happened.
the stone statue, you know, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I get it.
Yeah. So
yeah, go ahead.
so that's that. Yeah. So kind of tying that back around to the original point, it is important to have those discussions when you do have something that your players aren't quite getting. It's good to have that sort of one-on-one time away from rolling dice to try to kind of help them understand or walk through the logic of it. Uh, just connecting those dots can mean the difference between having oh, that session sucked because we weren't able to do anything and they just kind of kept us in this room for 45 minutes to an hour, versus, oh, okay, so we just need to start thinking about this next time that something like this comes up.
I would say, I created this under the table thing as kind of a way for us to help figure stuff out, because especially with King's Crossing, I have two parties going through it at two different times. I need them to communicate because I will give Adarag's group stuff that might help Grunkle's group, and I've given Grunkle's group stuff that might help Adarag's group. The problem is that you two are the only two who show up, and Grunkle doesn't get everything from their group. So then I'm sitting here like, you guys got stuff for Adarag's group, and you're not sharing it because Grunkle didn't get everything. And, same thing on this side where Nimwork got stuff. And I have to kind of pry it out or give it out myself because it's like, you guys. So I would say under the table is great and very effective if people show up. Mm-hmm. It's useful if only some people show up, is my take on it after running it for a year now.
Has it been a year?
Yeah, split between the two campaigns.
Oh my god, you're right. We are probably coming up on we're around that time. That makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, so I would say preferably if everyone would show up and contribute and engage and, do their thing. It's also, I would say in general, not just on puzzles. Puzzles also very helpful because, it could be a situation where we'll say Adise solves a puzzle and Pickles is going, I don't know how you solved it. But then during Under the Table, you guys can talk and Pickles can be like, oh, okay, now I understand. So that way, when the next puzzle comes up, Pickles can be more helpful because, okay, I understand how it works, and now he can contribute, or whatever the case may be. I would say Under the Table works regardless whether it's puzzles or anything for any campaign. In my opinion, I wish people would show up and contribute. Fortunately, I have you two to show up and contribute. And that's great because if it was just Adarag and Nimware who showed up, it wouldn't be as useful. Mm-hmm. I think it would be useful, but not as useful. But because I've got you two, it's a lot more useful. But that's also coming from a campaign with two different parties. Mm-hmm. So it's different. But this almost goes into another point. And I would like to do maybe a drinks and discussions about Under the Tables / whatever everyone else calls them. Mm-hmm. / just talking throughout the week, communicating with your party about the game. Mm-hmm. That's something that
DM aftercare. Yeah, you gotta love them.
Yeah, that too. But we've never been able to achieve that. I don't think. Pickles, correct me if I'm wrong. In our 15 years of on and off playing, we've never been able to achieve people actually engaging throughout the week about a campaign.
It's we were more passionate in our youth where we would talk about it during the week, but yeah.
Yeah, you and I would, but that's about it. And I think that can be huge. One, to stay engaged. One, to be committed and invest in the game. There's a difference between just showing up and being like, okay, all right, all right, rolling your dice, kind of, and then moving on with your day. That's one thing. But if you're showing up and being like, okay, we prep for this, we're ready. Like, we've got a game plan going into this, and then the DM's like, sweet, glad to hear it. Let's see what we got. It could really change the game. And I'll keep this to puzzles because I think we should do another episode on all that.
Yeah, we should. I wanted to tell a story of my own about that, but I think Under the Table should be another Under the Table for a discussion.
Keeping this to puzzles, I would say for short game puzzles, like say the water one, okay, we figured that out within one episode. Okay, we could talk about it maybe, but there isn't a whole lot to talk about when you've done it. Yeah. Ones like mine where it's like, we'll take the Atlas thing. Okay, we know this, that, during and Under the Table, players could come in and be like, hang on, okay, we got to figure this out. I've got this. What do you got? And people can, okay, let's see how these pieces fit together and see if we can make something happen. I feel like that is very useful. That'll be the last thing I say on it. I've ranted for long enough.
I feel like, yeah, on some episodes like that, I do need like a whiteboard behind me and like starting to like actually write things out and stuff like that. But again, it kind of comes down to like those sorts of aspects where it is a longer term puzzle that's trying to be figured out over the course of a season, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. Those sorts of puzzles are ones that you do need to take the time outside of the game to figure out. And again, it comes down to engagement, like you're talking about. The ones that are one-offs in the episode, those ones are things that you can kind of fix with maybe having a couple of extra clues in your back pocket that fit the story. But the longer ones, they definitely need a like, hey, okay, let's break this down and figure out what everybody's clues are at the moment and what everybody thinks about it. So that way you can get a level set on the characters and the DM of like, okay, from a DM's perspective, you can see like, okay, they understand this, this, and this. Maybe in next episode, I need to incorporate this to drive this point home so that they can draw these lines together. But again, that comes all with community engagement.
That also, I don't mean to keep talking, but another good point is if you actually engage, if the players actually engage, which is something that for some reason is really hard to get people to do. If the players actually engage, we'll say out of the game, we'll say Under the Table, we'll say, throughout the week. For example, I've got a puzzle going on. Pickles tries to engage. He's like, hey guys, we've got this puzzle in this game. What do you guys know about it? What can we figure out? Adis doesn't engage. So then Adis comes in and is frustrated. He's like, I can't figure this out. And Pickles is like, maybe if you would have fucking talked to me, we could have figured this out. And then he doesn't talk to the DM either, right? So Adis doesn't talk to the DM. So I've given him, we'll say 10 clues. He's only gotten one clue written down. He didn't pick up the other ones. I don't know that. So I'm sitting here going, why the fuck aren't you getting it? And I've given you everything. I don't know what else to say. And Adis is going over there like, I've got one clue. It just says ice cream. I don't know what that means. Like, I don't even know what this is. Why did I write this down? Like, he never engages, so no one knows. Pickles doesn't know. Pickles has got all 10 written down. And he's trying to piece them together, but he needs help.
A lot of help.
Engage. It's literally helping you, other players, and the DM to understand, where you're at.
We're coming up on the end of our show here, and I know it's not my show to run, but I feel like I'm a good producer here, good little bro host,
comrade.
Well, yeah. But oh my god,
what is this?
I have to jump off.
What a guest star appearance the last 4 minutes of the episode.
Sorry. I just had some extra time, so I figured I'd swing by.
What are your thoughts on puzzles in TTRPGs?
in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's go through the questions really quick. What's too easy? What's too hard? What's the ideal challenge level? Knowing what the goal is, number of clues given, number of wrong clues given, hiding success behind skill checks.
God,
Should
we
the
talked
goal be
about a lot.
clear? I think I already said that.
talked about a
Should
lot.
you give your DM under the table aftercare? Should you love your fellow players? How much is communication important?
You're
How
making
many
me want to
wrong
run
clues?
away.
How much should you love your play? Wait, yeah, I don't remember that one.
My train got derailed there.
What are your thoughts on, from a DM and player's perspective, on puzzles in TTRPGs?
Okay. So first thought that comes to my mind is the DM and player perspective is wildly like disjointed from each other's perspective.
Hell yeah.
Like as a DM, it obviously makes so much sense because you created the puzzle or you understand the puzzle and it feels so simple. And then as players, it can get really frustrating, especially if it's a simple puzzle that took you an hour to figure out, or like, you know, those kinds of things. However, I like those scenarios. I like to try and figure out puzzles. I don't know. I'd have to think about like the best way to implement that though. I feel like I would like the use of like tools to support it, and if it's all just like headspacey and like kind of in the ether and the players just have to keep it all in their mind, that can be more of a challenge. I think it could be cool if like there's actual tangible like things the characters can be doing to progress the puzzle. But I know I'm limited on time, so there's a 1 to 2 minute little thoughts with Tough Nuts.
That work for you, Pickles?
Actually, I was gonna say, I was hoping for a beautiful moment to cut. Just clip that bit, and that sums up everything we talked about, basically.
Basically, what
Like,
we said to do doesn't matter.
No. I'm saying that sums all of us up. And with my questions were earnest. A different thing that we did here, Doctor Nuts, was that I just asked questions and I didn't really give my own answers.
Yeah.
We talked about puzzles and what puzzles mean as like non-combat, non-social problems that you solve with skills or without skills, or finding out how to be a better puzzle writer and how to be like a better player was a big goal as well. So figuring out how we all think and stuff like that with puzzles was what I was trying to figure out. And I don't know if we really solved anything, but we found that there are a number of things that make being a puzzle storyteller more difficult.
I think we came up with a couple ideas of how you can better your puzzle prep, kind of, as a DM.
Yes.
And we came up with a couple ways that you can help better your puzzle solving as a player.
Mhm.
I.e., engaging with your other players under the tables, talking throughout the week, writing down your clues, talking with the DM about what clues you have, where you have 1 clue and they've given 10 and you just don't know what they are, so on and so forth.
Yep. And then
And that's drinks and discussions.
That's drinks and discussions.
We did it.
So yeah, huge shout out to Tough Nuts as our guest star showing up.
Dr. Nuts.
Tough Nuts has shown up as he is. Are you gonna be running your own game again? Do we know?
Potentially, yeah.
You'd like to?
lost,
We'll see.
well, I lost a player. You're talking about my in-person one.
Mhm.
Yeah, I lost a player, so I'd have to kind of restructure that. But honestly,
He moved away.
Yeah, he's not dead.
yeah.
Everything's
Oh,
fine.
yeah. He's
My
just
condolences.
across the country now. So, and we were only in person. There was no like virtual aspect to the game. So, I'm considering it, but I'm also. I realized through doing that experience that I want to create my own world rather than do a pre-made, because I'll just be so much more invested in it, and like understand the characters better and stuff. So all the players want me to do the old game, but I kind of am more excited about trying to do my own thing.
Yeah,
So
I
I
get
don't know.
that.
Building that character.
You can
You
use
what?
a character. Yeah, reuse a character.
I spent so much time on the character.
I know.
I don't know that I've ever reused a character that I can think
But
of.
Grunkle's original.
Well,
The first time I've ever used him here.
Runkle's been reused, but only because he got screwed over, so that wasn't fair. But I know a lot of people reuse characters. A lot of people will be like, "Yeah, I have this character in my pocket that I've had for however long, that they want to bring into games." A lot of people do that with me. I'm like, "Hey, I have this game," and they're like, "Okay, build it around my character that I've had for like 12 years." And I'm like, "No."
I
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have an idea for a campaign, and I kind of have toyed with the idea of a dual DM situation.
Pickles and I have thought about that.
The devil's bargain.
It's tough. It's nice in theory. It's tough on paper to put it together.
I get that. I think we could talk. That's a huge topic, but
Yeah, that's another.
That's a whole
would be a
nother
big one. Yeah.
discussion.
yeah, that's a huge topic. But I've thought about it a little bit in ways that I think it could work with my style and someone else's, and I think it'd be interesting. So
I think Pickle is our biggest holdup with it is that we were both wanting to DM, but we were also our only players. So at the time, it's like I was Pickles' only player and he was my only player. So how do we dual DM but also be the players in the game?
Play with each other.
yeah, I feel like my weakest point in DMing is the town like social structure. It's just difficult for me to keep track of too many characters and like personalities and motives and all that.
Same.
But I think I do well. I would argue you're fantastic at it because
Yeah.
like,
No, Wrath is trained for a long time though. I
Yeah.
think it's worth noting that this is something he has been polishing since our childhood. Like he was always about the town dynamic. He was passionate about it.
Yeah.
Put effort into it. I worked with it. We both worked with each other's styles, and you don't get to that point without putting a lot of work into it and perpetually seeing a moment where you can like do better.
Trust
Sure.
me, it's failed a lot of times too. So
Sure.
I
I'm
always
just
enjoy-
saying,
you were
like
good.
if you take Arwen's Rest as like a great example, you've got a lot of really diverse characters. They feel unique. Most of them are interesting. They're, like there's like what's the word? I guess
Stonehelm?
like handles to like grab onto to like pursue story in different
Plot hooks.
plot hooks. So you do that really well. I've struggled with that in my campaign, and I think a big part of that is because I didn't write the town and the characters.
yeah, I could never try and read someone else's description of characters and go off it. But like, I know who Granny Evelyn is, and I know what she's up to, and I know who Bjorn is and what he's up to because I made them.
Right. And so that's helpful. But I think on the flip side of that, with the adventuring stuff and interesting combat and like interesting like challenges to face and that kind of stuff, like I'm doing pretty well at, I feel like. And so I think if I could get like support on one side and help with the other, like it could be an interesting dynamic. I don't know. Been thinking about it.
Yes.
Well,
That would be an interesting drinks and discussions episode. I'd be down to put that on the docket, but yeah, so that's it from us. Tough Nuts is our guest star showing up at the last minute, coming in clutch. He is the voice and portrayal of Nimwort from King's Crossing, so if you want to see more of him, you can find him there.
Shit.
What?
He's the voice.
Crazy. But anyways, that's it from us. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Drinks and Discussions, the RPG podcast. We will see you on the next episode. Later.
Cheers.
I love you.